everyone, and welcome into Maroon Bold. I'm your sports editor and host, Austin Chastain. A pretty jam-packed episode on the docket here this week. We've got in the Zoom call, we've got staff reporter Christian Boer and another staff reporter, special guest this week, Mitch Vosburg. We'll start with Christian. CB, how we feeling? We're in February, kind of making that home stretch turn to March, and then kind of the semester will kind of start to kind of alleviate itself. But how are things going for you, man?
It's going all right. We're hanging in there. The weather is kind of horrible right now with all the snow, so that's always tough. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that's what you've come to expect here, in Michigan in February and January. So can't let it get you down.
Yeah, that's totally true. I know it seems like anytime you want to go do something, the weather just doesn't seem to cooperate. We've had a couple of trips to cover some games that have been shut down because of the bad weather. I think Christian remembers that Michigan game, the women's basketball opener at Michigan. We were going to go down to Ann Arbor the day before Thanksgiving, and the weather turned really bad, so we didn't end up going, but that's all right. And like I said, along with us in the Zoom call, fellow staff reporter Mitch Vosburg. Mitch, first of all, thanks for joining the show, man, and second of all, how are things going for you?
Boys, it's great to be on here, Maroon and Bold. I believe it's my debut. If not, I'm sorry I misspoken maybe my episode before, but hey, the wind's howling, the snow on the ground. It's early February. I want to strap on the pads and play some football, but, my time has come. Other than that, hey, it's a great day to be alive, great day to wake up, and can't wait to talk some CMU sports here with you boys.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, thanks for joining on, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, actually. So we'll start real quick. We'll get right into kind of some of the news around CMU. Yeah, like I said, we'll just kind of get right into it. CMU volleyball picking up a very impressive and much needed sweep or weekend sweep of Northern Illinois this past weekend in McGurk. Chippewas earning a 5-set victory over the Huskies on Thursday, and then a 4-set victory over the Huskies on Friday. That's we kind of talked about it last week real quick, but kind of that offensive prowess that CMU needs to find, and Mike Golick talked about it. Seems like that they've been able to kind of figure it out. They'll be without Kalina Smith for the rest of the season. She has ended her volleyball career due to a shoulder injury, as she announced on her Instagram. So that'll be interesting to see how they figure out a way to replace that offensive. I don't want to say genius, but that offensive power that she brings. So it'll be interesting to see that. Volleyball team at Western Michigan next weekend should be a good matchup between the Chippewas and Broncos. It always is, especially in Kalamazoo. And we'll get into another matchup between CMU and Western and Reed Fieldhouse, but in a different sport. But yep, volleyball on the road down to Kalamazoo next Thursday and Friday. Also, the CMU gymnastics team picking up its first win of the season, and quite frankly, that's probably the most dominant win I've seen in my 3 years of being, I guess, aware of the program. I guess since I've been here at CMU, a 195.050 to 179.250 victory over Bowling Green. Yeah, I see Mitch's eyebrows going like through his hat almost. And yeah, that's to say that's dominant, I think, is an understatement. And I get it. Bowling Green was a little lacking of depth. That happens. Understandable. They only had 4 scores count for the floor exercise, and those scores weren't necessarily the best. I think I saw like an 8-6 from one of their gymnasts. But anyway, good for CMU to step up to the plate and go on and take a dominant victory. Home opener Thursday at 2 p.m. against Northern Illinois. It'll be interesting to. I feel like I said it about everything I talk about. It's all interesting stuff. It's all good stuff. But anxious to see how the team performs at home. It's one of 3 home meets, and that wraps up with a quad on March 13th against Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, and Ball State. 2 of those teams have already beaten CMU at their home gym. Ball State winning in the season opener, and then Western Michigan winning in the second weekend. So 3 meets in McGurk for the gymnastics team, and first one is Thursday, February 11th, 2 p.m. against Northern Illinois. I also did see that the wrestling team picked up a win on Friday. Let me just double check who that was against. I know it wasn't Buffalo. I want to say it was Cleveland State.
It was Cleveland State.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir. See, Mitch knows what's going on. Yep, a 21-15 win over Cleveland State. Bonus points were the key to that victory. Looked like Drew Hildebrandt was big for the Chippewas in the opener of that meet again. So we're recording this on Sunday before the Super Bowl. So we probably won't be able to talk much. If you want to hear all of our Super Bowl talk, you can go back to last week's show. All of our Super Bowl talk is there. But the wrestling team is in Buffalo for a try against Edinboro and the Bulls. And then that according to the schedule as it sits right now, that is the last competition for the regular season. The MAC championships are set for February 27th and 28th in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And then the NCAA championships are March 18th from the 20th in St. Louis, Missouri. So not a ton of time left for the Chippewa wrestlers, but there there's a couple of weeks in between competitions, so they might be able to go ahead and schedule one last meet. I did talk to Tom Borelli about possibly rescheduling or adding anything, and he said that it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's going to be really tough to do just to get the facilities and to get officials, to get everything that you need for competition, especially now with everything, with a couple of additional sports going on. He said that the ability to reschedule is going to be even tougher than it normally is. So with that, I think that's enough from me for now. I guess covers all of our CMU sports except for a couple, and we'll get right into it with women's basketball picking up a significant yet strange win. Almost said weird, strange weird. A big win on Saturday against Western Michigan in Reed Fieldhouse. Although it was only a 3-point win over a lowly Broncos team. Christian, I'm going to start with you. Women's team needing to find some contributors other than Michaela Kelly and Molly Davis.
Yeah, big time. We don't know how long Kira Bussell will be out. I don't know if that was clarified at all yesterday. But she not having her is going to hurt, and she's been struggling when she was in the lineup. So you're right. It's all about finding that depth and that consistency. And, maybe getting another performer off the bench like we talked about last week. But then again, the pieces are all there. I mean, Maddie Waters can give you 15 on a good night because she's such a good shooter. It's just a matter of her being more assertive and taking more shots and trying to create more opportunities for herself. I mean, everybody knows how good of a passer she is. But, when you need that scoring depth, maybe it's time for her to start creating for herself. So it'd be interesting to see how they go about finding that extra piece. And, at the end of the day, they're going to have to do it rather quickly because, I mean, there's not necessarily a future that I envision where they don't go to Cleveland, but you could be looking at them in the bottom half of the tournament seedings, and nobody really wants to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, I went on Periscope yesterday, and if you joined, thank you for that. If you didn't, I don't blame you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, look, I'm right there with you. I don't see a way they don't go to Cleveland. It's almost asinine to think that they don't. But anything can happen. I mean, we're a month away from the end of the regular season, so it totally could happen. I don't think it's going to. I don't think Heather Osterley would let that happen. I don't think any of those players would let that happen. But look, and I kind of said it yesterday, and I'm right again. You got to have somebody step up. I mean, you have Jahari Smith, cracking double digits, but then Molly Davis has 5 points in the first half, and you're down at halftime, and she goes out and scores 22 in the second half. That's ridiculous. You have Michaela Kelly scoring 20, and both of them played. Well, I know Davis played at least. Well, she played all 40 minutes, and I think Kelly did too. You can't have that. You need a guard. You need Sophia Karasinski. You need Callie Martinez. You need Anika Weeks and Anika Weeks can play both. She's a two-way player, so she can play a four. She can play a 4 or a 3 if you need. But you got to figure something out to take the pressure off the guard. So then if they go cold, I mean, Michaela Kelly was 0 for 6 from 3 Saturday. I always do that. But anyway, but she I think ended up making she's 13 of 20 from the field or something ridiculously good like that. No, that doesn't make sense. That wouldn't add up. I don't know. I don't remember my numbers off the top of my head, but a cold shooting day, it'll end up being a struggle, and you're going to get smoked in Cleveland if you do that. So you got to find some contributors to step up to the plate and find a way to do it. And I think Heather Osterley keeps talking about it, and I think she's going to do it. I think she's going to find a way to push some of the younger players, some of the bench players, role players, whatever, however you want to go about that. She's going to find a way to push them and get them to contribute, so then they can have success in Cleveland. Because I don't think Central Michigan wants to see another struggle like they had in, I guess, last year when they got beat by Toledo, and the year before that when they barely got by Eastern Michigan. They sailed through the quarterfinal, and then they get to the semifinal and lose a heartbreaker to Buffalo. So yeah, I think you're going to see it, and it's going to have to happen. Like Christian said, it's going to have to happen quickly. But just thinking about it, how important are the next couple of games, in your opinion, for this team, Christian?
Oh, they're very important. They're against good teams. I mean, you've got Kent State coming in on Saturday. They're back and they're playing now again. You've got Bowling Green coming up too. And Northern Illinois is making a run now to where they're in the top 3 of the standings. And that's your last game of the year, and we're not too far out from that. So you've got a lot of good teams that you're going to have to get through. I know that they've got another one with Toledo. I'm trying to get through I think Miami of Ohio is this Wednesday. Yes. So again, you're not going to face any slouches for opponents. The conference is already really good, and they've gotten. It seems like every year another team gets better. I mean, this year it's been Bowling Green, and Kent State's been really good as well. So a lot of good teams, a lot of quality opponents, and no game is going to be easy for this group, and they're going to have to put together some good performances if they want to win these games.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Christian said, CMU on the road to Miami next week in Oxford, or on Wednesday in Oxford. And then they'll be at home against Kent State on Saturday, 1 p.m. in McGurk. And then on the road again the following Wednesday at Bowling Green, and then an absolute showdown on the 24th against Toledo. That is going to be it's going to be a pretty dynamite game, really. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then you're really rounding third, so to speak, heading home. March 6th, like Christian said, March 6th is the finale against Northern Illinois in McGurk Arena. That one is going to be very important for seeding, and depending on how these games fall, we could be talking about a berth into Cleveland if CMU somehow struggles the rest of the way. I don't think it'll happen, but we'll see what happens. I'm intrigued to see how it goes. Now we'll look. Pandemic season is tough for everyone. I get it. No one is immune to trouble in terms of, COVID can seep its way. You're isolated from your friends. You can't see your family. I would be, I don't know how I would be. So I do want to preface our next part of the conversation, and really this entire season, with I don't know how much of a struggle it is. So I will, applaud players, coaches, staff for doing what they need to do so they can play. I will 100%. I will preface this with that. So with that in mind, we will talk about what's going on the court with the CMU men's team. It's not good, just to say the least. Chippewas lose on Saturday at home against Western Michigan. Mitch, I like the lead in your story when you flashed back to Marcus Keene hitting that 3-pointer with like 3 seconds left, and it was almost 3 years to the day. I think it was Thursday that we saw that video surface up on Twitter a couple of different times. And then Western does almost the same exact thing in that very same building just a couple of years later. So let's start there. Really give me kind of the rundown. What happened against the Broncos? Because that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, I think heartbreaker is the right word for that. And just for clarification, that was 4 years ago, not 3, because I'm really iffy on details for some weird reason. But it took about 30 minutes for CMU to score their first 3-point attempt, which in the Keelan Davis era seems somewhat unheard of. But I think all their points in the first half came from free throws or inside the paint, which, again, from a Keelan Davis team is, I think, a bit uncharacteristic. But Western found their 3-point stroke early in the second half, and then Central was able to force a couple turnovers and get the game tied, and they went back and forth, turnover, basket, back and forth, down to the wire. And then right in front of me, basically, Greg Lee from Western Michigan with 2 guys in his face, leans back, takes about, I think, a 12-foot jumper and just drains it with like 1.7 on the scoreboard. And honestly, I could just feel the energy. I feel like what should have been the energy in the crowd, but obviously because of COVID, you can't have fans in there. But I just see, as a sports fan, you know when your team is doing really well, and then there's like right then they lose a play at the very last second. That sinking stomach feeling happens inside you. That's exactly how I felt watching that game yesterday. It was the most competitive 40 minutes I think I've seen them play all year, which I think is a step in the right direction. They were without Devontae Lane, whose injury Keno told me was day to day. So we'll see how that goes. He had no clue about how long the injury will be. But at the same time, there are some things about that game you can take away and like. There are some things, obviously, you lose the season series, you get swept in the season series to Western for the first time since 2015-16. And Western's got a first-year coach, and they've now won 2 in a row. Western's starting to get some momentum, and now the Chippewas dropped 3 back to Ball State for the 8th spot in the MAC with 9 games left. So, there was a lot of good from that game, but also definitely some bad you can take away with it too.
Yeah, and that was kind of where I was going to go next. I mean, they're 3 games out with only a handful of games left, and really all of those games are okay. Every game is huge. I get it. It's college basketball. There's never a game that's not important. I understand. Don't hit my mentions. Well, people don't hit my mentions anyway, but don't hit my mentions with, oh, he's saying that these games aren't important. Come on now. But really, this week, Tuesday, and I think this podcast is coming out on Tuesday, so tonight, Tuesday, Ball State coming into McGurk Arena is CMU needs that game. And then Friday against Buffalo, that one's going to be on CBS Sports Network, so national TV for anyone that's excited about that. That's another game that CMU has to have. If you don't win those 2 games, you can pretty much play for next season after that. I think. I mean, because if you look at the standings, which we started including the standings at the end of our game stories, so be sure to check those out. But looking at it, Ball State is 5-6 in the conference. Buffalo is 6-4. CMU is 2-9 in MAC play. Both those wins against Eastern Michigan, actually, and pretty dominant wins too. So that you like to see that when you're dominating one of your in-state rivals, but need to find a way to beat up on your other one, or just beat your other one.
I think what helps with this run schedule, though, like you mentioned, these games being important. These 9 are important because A, you need to try and get in the MAC, but B, you have 2 against Northern Illinois, 2 against Ball State. You still have 2 against Buffalo, and you got Toledo, Ohio, and Miami of Ohio left. Those are all teams that those are all teams that are within striking distance to try to get into this tournament. Okay, Toledo's obviously the top seed. Probably not going to flirt with that 1 seed at all at this point. But these are all teams that if you can get wins, these are the games you get to try and make up ground, which, like you mentioned at the start of this subject, like every game is important. Well, when you're 3 games back with 9 to go and you're playing teams that you're looking up at and try and climb and kind of knock them down a peg or 2, these games have so much more value as opposed to maybe playing them in December.
Right. Well, I mean, you talking about the 1 seed there. I don't really give it, people don't give a shit about the 1 seed at this point. It's, can you get to Cleveland? Can you get the 8 seed? It doesn't, as long as you get the 8 seed, as long as you get to Cleveland, it doesn't matter what seed you are. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I think we actually talked about it earlier in the week, the 3 of us. If you're gonna have any sort of chance to win the MAC, you're gonna have to beat the best team. So it doesn't matter what seed you end up taking. But and against some of that top competition, you look at the top of the standings, and CMU has not fared very well against, we'll call it, the top 4 teams in the conference. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it. And I know that the divisions were eliminated, but you have, like Mitch said, you have 2 against Buffalo from the East, but mainly, and you have 1 against Ohio, but mainly your remaining games are against Western Division opponents you're really familiar with, because you were guaranteed 2 games a year with those teams last year. Obviously, now you're going to play everyone. Well, I guess at least once. We don't know what the some of these rescheduled games are going to look like. There's not a lot of time left to get those games rescheduled, and Ohio has already postponed the game on February 16th. So we're talking over a week away. So you're going to have to find a way to reschedule these games. You're going to have to play a lot of games to get them all in. So good luck with that. But yeah, like you said, 2 at Ball State, that's going to be huge. You gotta at least hold home court against Ball State if you hope to have that, and probably the same against Buffalo. Like you have to win in McGurk, because winning at Buffalo is always one of the toughest things to do, and winning at Ball State. I don't have the series history off the top of my head, but it's winning on the road is one of the biggest challenges. Especially toward the end of the regular season, and especially if teams are able to have some fans, be it just parents, be it just a handful. Western had some fans in Reed Fieldhouse, which is odd that Western can have fans, but Central is not allowing fans. And that's not a criticism. I think it's actually probably pretty smart with the new variant going around. Probably a pretty smart thing for CMU to do that. But Mitch, in your opinion, man, what needs to happen for CMU? Again, I don't really care about the 1 seed. That's not, obviously, hey, 1 seed, hey, great. But they're so far out of that, and there's not enough time for that. But what does CMU need to do to find its way to Cleveland?
They have to figure out a way to play a full 40 minutes by Monday afternoon, in my opinion. Obviously, this is coming out on Tuesday, so obviously they need to figure out how to play a full 40 yesterday, essentially. Their problem is, and I've talked to players and coaches and stuff, it's like when things go well, like they're fine, they're rolling. We saw against Eastern. But when they get in those weird stretches where they start to commit a couple turnovers, get a little cold streak, their heads kind of sink, and just things go from bad to worse quickly. Yesterday's game was against Western. I think we saw that, they could hang in with somebody, that they could play a competitive 40 minutes down to 9 guys, which, by the way, talking to Keno, apparently they practiced all week with 9 guys for that Western game, because Devontae Lane is out, Andre Polk is out. They have some other guys injured, banked up too. So trying to get a full practice and trying to get experience, like Keno puts it, becomes very difficult. That being said, though, Mikael Murray and Javon Broadway, if they can each put up at least 15 points, they'll have a fighting shot. I think Malik Muhammad has settled very well into a similar role Rob Montgomery has had, except not as much shooting from the outside, but probably more inside presence. But at the end of the day, as Al Davis would put it, you just win. Just win, baby. Just win. You have to figure out a way. You just have to figure out a way to scrap out this game Tuesday with Ball State and go from there. It's got to be one game at a time. Can't be looking too far ahead trying to say how can we win all 9 games. It all starts with how can you win Tuesday against Ball State. If that's a win, you can try and build off that. If you don't win and you walk into Buffalo, now you're 4 games back with 8 to go. I mentioned this after the game too in my post-game video. I'm not going to rule them out making the MAC tournament. There's still a lot of basketball to be played, and we see with sports, anything can happen. However, I will say that the margin for error for CMU men's hoops right now is razor thin. They literally cannot afford, they can't afford to lose a game. They can't afford to be outscored, 12-4 in the last 2 minutes. They can't afford to, not play a complete 40 minutes. They have to take these next 9 games, 1 game at a time, find ways to beat the opponent in front of them. And, whatever happens, happens. I know Keno was very hopeful about this team being a good team this year, but he also knows next year maybe be a better year. My guess right now is we'll see next year CMU hopefully finding better success. I feel this is what it's going to go down to, but I can't rule out somehow they make a run here. Is it likely? I'm going to assume no at this point, but, I've been wrong so many times before. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
He's saying they need to find a way to play complete 40 minutes yesterday. We probably could have said that about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I chuckled. I chuckled when you said it. Just the way that it came out was really funny. But in all honesty, I mean, like you said, there's still a lot of game left, man. Lot of basketball to play, but I don't see it happening. I just don't.
I want to add one thing really quickly. The one bugaboo I have with Keno mentioning too, he mentions the keep need to be healthy. He keeps mentioning getting Andre Polk back would be huge. Because obviously he's a 6'10" freshman. He's kind of starting center. My issue is it keeps saying that. He told me a while ago, he said today. It's been like a month and a half now. I don't know what's going on. I never will find out what's going on. My only issue is I mentioned this about a week or two ago. If he gets back in the lineup, the way he's been talking him up, that is a lot of pressure to put on an 18, 19-year-old kid to all of a sudden just feel like, okay, he's back, problems are solved. Like, no, that's not how this works. I just want to throw that real quick. Just wanted to throw that just for comment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always had a real problem with saying that about anybody. I mean, unless they're, LeBron James or Michael Jordan or somebody of similar nature. I'm with you. There's a little bit of a bugaboo when you're talking about that in college basketball. I get it. He's very talented. And he has been a difference maker for that team. But at the same time, like you said, he's 19 or 20 or 18, 19 years old. His first experience in college basketball, and he's already having that expectation of, oh, he's back, he's going to play. All right, cool. Well, we're going to win. And if you don't, then that's a lot of disappointment, on his shoulders. I don't know how he feels about it, so I'm not going to, offer too much more into it, but I would agree with that. Hey, CB, what do you think about the men's team? I know you haven't necessarily covered them all that much, been around that team very much, but what are some of your thoughts? What are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just think they lack that cohesiveness that all the good teams have. At the beginning of the year, they had trouble finding a go-to guy. I think they found that with Trevon Broadway now. They're just not, we've been talking this whole episode about playing 40 minutes of basketball, but when you're not cohesive and you're not together, it's tough to play that long together and put together a quality effort for that long when you're not really connected. So I think as the season progresses, you might see that get a little bit better. But at the end of the day, when you're bringing in patchwork guys from all over the country on 2-year contracts, basically, it takes you this long to build that cohesiveness, and it takes you this long to get connected. And, next year, what's it going to be like? Because you're probably going to get everyone back. They haven't signed anybody in recruiting. So it could be, I'd say right now, it's very possible that the product that takes the floor this season is the same exact one you get next year.
Is it a finished product, do we think?
Far from it.
They'll need to work out some of the internal stuff, but they could be a pretty solid team, but that cohesiveness, you can't build that in just 2 years time. You got kind of lucky with some of the guards that you were able to bring in with Sean Roundtree, Larry Austin. I mean, hell, you could even argue Dallas Morgan. I know he's not a guard, but also Rob Montgomery. You know, some of the big stars that you've seen in the last couple of years. But yeah, that cohesiveness, you can't manufacture that. You know, like I said, you got lucky because you have really likable guys with Roundtree and Larry Austin, and those two just meshed together really well the one year that they played in the CMU backcourt together. So, I'm very intrigued with this last month of the regular season to see if CMU can find some kind of manufactured cohesiveness. And I know I just said you really can't. I'm sticking with that, but if they can manufacture it, they might be able to make a run. I think that's the only way they can do it, is if they're able to pick each other up when they're down, instead of, you know, oh man, you know, we just got, you know, smoked on a 6, or we got smoked on a 7-0 run. Oh well, game's over. I think you started to see it a little bit with Western, but again, Western isn't, you know, the Bubs of the MAC. So you really need to, you know, see a turnaround with that. Mitch, any final thoughts on the men's team?
Oh, on the spot here. I will mention one thing about Keno. He keeps mentioning the fact that, you know, he feels optimistic about this group long term because he's going to get all these guys back because 6 years eligibility doesn't count. Agree with this assessment. I will also add, though, that every team in the nation also gets that nice little caveat. So when Christian mentioned about the team we see this year having to be the same team next year, yeah, I think Christian was absolutely on point with that one. You know, we'll see what happens here down these next 9 games. I'm excited. Keep track of me during the games at Real Mitch Vosburg. Shame-free plug there. But, you know, I'm just excited to be able to watch some college basketball. And before I forget, I know we are in the global pandemic and everything, but the game against Western Saturday, that was a game that needed fans in there. That was a game that, you know, if McGurk was at full capacity and got about 3,000 fans in there, that game would have been an instant classic. Obviously, it wouldn't have worked in Central's favor at the end of the day, but that would have been a game that I think a lot of people on this campus remember for a very long time.
Yeah. And that's something else too, is, you know, like I said, it's probably for the best right now that CMU isn't hosting fans because of the COVID variant, or, you know, whatever you want to, you know, whatever your thoughts on it aside, at the end of the day, I think it's probably the safest thing. You know, I don't like it. I don't like not having fans. Everyone wants fans. And, you know, I won't go too much into the COVID piece of it, because I know a lot of people have some very polarizing thoughts on it, which is bizarre to me. But I'm ready for the day that there can be fans, and like you said, I mean, most men's games don't go to full capacity anyway, and quite, you know, that arena very rarely is full capacity. I mean, the last time I could think of it being completely full was probably the Marcus Keene days, really, in that game that we talked about against Western 4 years ago. Thanks for that, Mitch. You know, we saw videos all over Twitter of that game-winning shot, and that place went berserk and McGurk. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a lot of head shakes, I know. But anyway, yeah, I'm just ready for the day that we can have some fans, and, you know, have a couple hundred or even a couple thousand fans back in McGurk, because it is weird in there without anyone. You know, the 6-man band. I'll be honest with you, in a couple of basketball games that I've been at this year, I have really missed the 6-man band. Those guys and gals do a phenomenal job each and every night. And yeah, sorely missed in my opinion. So hopefully we can get to a point, maybe in the fall for the football season that we can have Kelly Shorts, at capacity, whatever. And then you can have a couple thousand fans in the 6-man band back in McGurk come next basketball season. So, like I said, we miss you. Hopefully, obviously we can still interact on social media and stuff, but definitely miss seeing you guys around McGurk Arena. So, with that, kind of my sappy ending there. You guys got anything you want to add? Anything at all?
Thanks, boys, for having me on today. This was actually a lot of fun to do on a cold day like this, get the morning started. So appreciate you guys having me on. Quick shameless plug here Thursdays at about 2-3 p.m. Unsportsmanlike Conduct, CM Life's exclusive sports talk outside the CMU realm. Obviously, keep listening to this podcast if you do. If you enjoy it, obviously share with your friends, your family, your dog, your dog's friends, all that jazz. Share all these podcasts, all right? We're all a bunch of college kids just trying to do the best we can do to get where we want to be in life. Your support means the world to us. And, thanks again for having me on.
For sure. Before I plug everything, Christian, you got anything else that you want to add? I can't see you because Mitch is on my screen right now.
No, sir.
All right. Well, great. And Mitch, thank you very much for popping on to the show. I really appreciate it. And like I said, we're recording this on Sunday, so I hear you're putting together some a pretty nice spread for you and your roommate for Super Bowl celebrations. Obviously, doing it safely. We're not going anywhere or doing anything. Intermixing households or whatever the language is. But yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you taking some time popping on here. This was a lot of fun. And yes, Unsportsmanlike Conduct is back. It is the pro sports show where Mitch and Christian talk and you guys listen. Other than that, like I always say, be sure to follow all of our podcasts at Central Michigan Life. We have, I think, 5 different podcasts now. But yeah, they're, a lot of great insight, a lot of great conversation among our CM Life staffers. We're also ramping up our video program so you can watch a lot of good CM Life video programming. I know I said program and programming in the same sentence. Sorry. But yeah, and like Mitch said, you can follow him on Twitter. You can follow Christian on Twitter at @cbooer_. You can follow me on Twitter at ChastainAJ. Follow our entire sports department at CM Life Sports on Twitter, at CM Life on Twitter, the main stage. Follow Central Michigan Life on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at CM Life Video, which you should be able to see right below us if you're watching this on YouTube. Like I said, lots of new video product on the way. And always make sure you tune in with us at cm-life.com for all of your Chippewa coverage, as we are, like I said before, we're rounding third, heading down the home stretch towards March, and we're really excited to bring it to you, so make sure you follow along with us. For Christian, for Mitch, our podcast editor, Ben Ackley, I'm sports editor Austin Chastain, signing off till we meet again.